Sun Tzu was a general, thinker, and strategist from ancient China. He lived over 2,500 years ago and is famous for writing The Art of War, a book that's still talked about today when it comes to strategy and smart decision-making. For Sun Tzu, winning was never about brute strength or charging into battle. He believed the best win was one where you didn't even have to fight. If you could read the situation well, plan ahead, and outthink your opponent, you'd already won before the fight even began. According to him, real power comes from knowing yourself, knowing your enemy, and shaping the situation in a way that things naturally go your way. He even believed that sometimes the best way to win is to avoid conflict altogether. Even though The Art of War was written for military leaders, its lessons go way beyond the battlefield. Whether you're leading a team, running a business, negotiating a deal, or just trying to make better choices in daily life, Sun Tzu's wisdom still applies. So in this video, we'll explore how to outsmart others by using the timeless strategies of Sun Tzu. Number 1. Know yourself and know your opponent. Sun Tzu says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Before going into battle, Sun Tzu studied everything: the lay of the land, the weather, how strong was his army, how motivated his soldiers felt, where was he vulnerable, what risks were worth taking, and which ones could backfire. And just as carefully, he studied his enemies. How did they move? How did their leaders think? What were they relying on for supplies? What was the mood like in their camp? The balance, knowing both sides, helped him win with minimal damage. Sometimes he didn't even have to fight at all. The problem is, most people skip the first step. They don't truly know themselves. They walk into conflicts or negotiations without thinking about what drives them, what triggers them, or where they're vulnerable. And when you don't know that, you make mistakes. If you're quick to anger, someone can push your buttons and throw you off. If you avoid confusion, someone can pressure you into giving in. Self-awareness is your first defense. Before you try to outsmart anyone else, make sure you can't be outsmarted by your own habits. The second step is knowing the other person by paying attention. People have patterns. They show who they are when they're under stress, when they're winning, and when they're losing. So watch what matters most to them. Notice what they overlook. If they rush through the details, that's where mistakes happen. If they hate being questioned, that's where they lose patience. The more you understand, the less you have to guess. When you know both yourself and others, you can see what's coming. You don't need to rush. You can wait, protect your weak spots, and make your move when the time is right. So next time you're in a tough situation, a negotiation, an argument, a competition, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what do I know about me? What do I know about them? Where do our strengths and weaknesses cross? Say you've been having tension with a coworker. They've been undermining you subtly in meetings. Nothing dramatic, just small comments that make you look less capable. You know you tend to avoid confrontation and let things slide, but this time you pause and reflect. You remind yourself that yes, you hate conflict, but staying silent hasn't helped. You realize that your coworker thrives on attention. They make those comments when others are watching, not one-on-one. So you prepare. You catch them privately, away from the audience. You calmly explain what you've noticed and how it affects your work. No anger, no drama, just facts and clarity. Because you know your weakness, you control it. Because you understand their patterns, you don't walk into their games. And because you stayed calm and prepared, the conversation shifts in your favor and you get the result you wanted. Those 3 simple questions about you, about them, and about where your strengths and weaknesses overlap can give you a surprising level of control. Suddenly, the chaos becomes clear. And when things are clear, like Sun Tzu said, you can walk into any battle without fear. Number 2. Win without fighting. Sun Tzu once wrote, "To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill." Sun Tzu didn't think of war as just fighting one battle after another. For him, war was a strategy. The best kind of victory, he believed, was one where no blood was shed at all. Before starting any campaign, he always looked for ways to win without even lifting a sword. As we mentioned, he studied the enemy's strengths and weaknesses just as carefully as his own. If they depended on supplies, he cut them off. If their morale was low, he found ways to break it further. If they relied on speed, he slowed them down, and he avoided any fight where his own weaknesses could be exposed. To Sun Tzu, walking away from a fight wasn't fear, it was wisdom. Outsmarting someone doesn't always mean going head-to-head. Often the smartest move is to shift the situation so they can't even compete. It's not about attacking, it's about staying in control, shaping things so that by the time a conflict could begin, the outcome is already leaning in your favor. Let's say 2 companies are targeting the same customers. One starts a price war, cutting rates to grab attention. The other takes a step back and thinks, what's their real strength? Low prices. But what's their weak spot? Poor customer service. So instead of joining the price battle, the second company focuses on something the other can't match: exceptional service. And just like that, it's not even a fight anymore. The game changed. The second company wins by being smarter, not louder. Or imagine there's someone in your life, a friend, a co-worker, or maybe a family member who always loves to argue. No matter what you talk about, they somehow turn it into a debate. They enjoy it. That's their strength. They like pushing people's buttons and getting a reaction. And one day, they say something that annoys you. You feel yourself getting upset. You want to respond, prove them wrong, maybe even shut them down. But then it hits you. That's exactly what they want. The more emotional you get, the more power you give them. You, on the other hand, are someone who values peace. You don't like drama, but if you let them get under your skin, you'll lose that peace. So, instead of reacting, you stay calm. You give a short, simple reply. You don't argue, you just move on. Now, they don't get the reaction they were hoping for, and you stay in control without saying much at all. So it turns out that the only winning move is not to play. Number 3. Use deception. To quote Sun Tzu, "When you're strong, appear weak. When you're weak, appear strong." Sun Tzu often used this simple idea: keep people guessing. He didn't want his enemies to know what he was really planning. If his army was strong and ready, he'd sometimes act cautious, like he was afraid, just to throw them off. If he was in a weak spot, he'd show confidence so they wouldn't attack too soon. This confusion made the enemy unsure, and in war, that uncertainty can be just as powerful as any weapon. Being smart isn't just about knowing what's true, it's about guiding what others think is true. If people can easily guess what you'll do next, they'll plan around you. But if they're unsure, you're the one in control. So, if you're in a strong position, don't show all your confidence right away. Stay calm, stay humble. Let people think they have the upper hand. People who believe they're winning tend to relax or make sloppy choices. But if you show off too early, they'll dig in and fight harder. Now, if you're the one in a tough spot, don't panic. Don't let it show. People often push harder when they sense weakness. So even if things aren't going your way, keep your cool. Act like you've still got options, even if you don't have many. That calm energy can make others back off or think twice. Let's say you're in a meeting with a client. You have other offers on the table, so you're not desperate for this deal, but you don't make a big show of that. You stay calm. You listen more than you speak. You let them do the talking. And as the conversation flows, they begin to trust you. Then comes the moment. They ask for something that's a bit much. You pause, and with quiet confidence, you say, "I understand why that's important to you, but usually that falls under a different package. If we're sticking to this budget, we might need to leave that part out." You don't argue. You don't chase. You simply stand your ground with ease. Now, picture the opposite. This time, you really need the job. But again, you don't let it show. You ask thoughtful questions. You act like someone who has options, even if, deep down, you know you don't. They try to rush you, push for an answer, but instead of panicking, you just smile and say, "Let me think it through and get back to you tomorrow." That moment right there changes everything. They feel your calm, they sense your steadiness, and suddenly, the way they treat you shifts. So remember, when you're strong, don't show all your strength. And when you're weak, don't show them all your weaknesses. Keep them guessing, and you control the game. Number 4. Control the terrain. According to Sun Tzu, he who occupies the field of battle first and awaits his enemy is at ease. Sun Tzu believed the ground you fight on can decide the outcome before the battle even begins. He said that the best generals choose the battlefield, the terrain that works for them, not for the enemy. If the land gave him an advantage, he fought. If it didn't, he moved until it did. By controlling the ground, he controlled the fight. In life, terrain isn't just physical space, it's the environment, the context, the rules of engagement. And outsmarting someone often comes down to shaping the situation so that others play by your rules and not the other way around. Take negotiations as an example. If you let the other person set the time, place, and agenda, you've already given up control. You're reacting instead of leading. But if you choose the meeting time, set the agenda, and control the pace, you shape the discussion in your favor. Even small things matter. A familiar setting can keep you calm and focused while making the other side adjust to your space. Controlling the terrain also applies to mental space. If you allow someone to frame the issue, they control the story. But if you set the frame early, decide what matters and what doesn't, you control how the conversation unfolds. For example, imagine you're in a salary negotiation. If your employer starts the discussion by saying, "We have a tight budget this year," they framed the conversation around limits. You're now playing on their ground. Instead, you start by framing the discussion around value. Let's look at the results I've delivered and how they've helped the company grow. That shift changes the entire tone. You've moved the conversation from their limits to your worth, and now you're on a stronger ground. So, before stepping into any challenge, ask yourself, where does this play out best for me? How can I set the terms so I'm on solid ground? Because when you control the ground, you control the flow. And when you control the flow, you win. Number 5. Use speed and surprise. As we learn from Sun Tzu, speed is the essence of war. Take advantage of the enemy's unpreparedness, travel by unexpected routes, and strike him where he's taken no precautions. Sun Tzu often used speed as a weapon. He knew that when an enemy hesitated, even if for a moment, it created an opening. Striking suddenly at the right time could decide the outcome before the other side even had a chance to respond. Surprise creates confusion. Speed turns that confusion into victory. Outsmarting someone isn't always about being stronger. It's about being quicker when it matters most. While others waste time overthinking or waiting for perfect conditions, you act. Decisive moves catch people off guard because most expect hesitation. Take business. Two companies see a new opportunity in the market. One holds endless meetings debating every risk. The other moves fast, launches first, and captures the attention of customers before anyone else gets there. That speed changes everything. By the time the competition reacts, the game's already over. Take relationships. Imagine you've been avoiding a hard conversation with your partner. Tension's building and both of you are holding back, waiting for the other to speak first. This is where speed and surprise work in your favor. Not to attack, but to disarm. Instead of waiting, you calmly bring it up when they least expect it, maybe in a quiet moment with an open and honest tone. Can we talk about something that's been on my mind? That unexpected move changes the energy. It shows confidence and it prevents the issue from growing into a bigger conflict. By acting early and calmly, you control the direction before emotions take over. Speed and surprise work best when paired with timing. You don't rush blindly, you wait for the right moment, the one where the other side is unprepared or too comfortable. Then you move, not aggressively, but decisively. So the next time you sense hesitation, ask yourself, can I act now while everyone else is waiting? Can I speak up before the silence turns into a storm? The person who moves first often sets the tone for everyone else. Number 6. Exploit emotions. Sun Tzu teaches, if your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. Sun Tzu understood that emotions could be more dangerous than weapons. An angry army can be led into traps. A proud leader can be tricked into making mistakes. Why? Because anger, greed, and pride cloud judgment. They make people act without thinking. And when that happens, strategy disappears. When people are emotional, they become predictable because they're reacting, not planning. And when someone's predictable, they're easy to control. But how do you use this? First, stay calm. Never fight angry. The moment you lose control, you hand over your advantage. But if you stay composed while the other person reacts emotionally, you own the pace of the game. Imagine we're back in that salary negotiation, and the other side wants to push you hard. They start raising their voice, interrupting, trying to make you flinch. This is a test. They want you to be emotional because emotion leads to mistakes. If you take the bait and snap back, they win. But if you stay calm, let them vent, and respond in an even tone, everything changes. They burn energy, you save energy. They speak more, you listen more. And while they're losing control, you're thinking 2 steps ahead, deciding what to say next and when to close the deal on your terms. Say someone throws an insult at you, hoping to get a reaction. If you fire back, you give them exactly what they want, a fight. But if you smile slightly, stay calm and reply with something neutral like, I see what you're trying to do, you flip the power completely. They wanted anger. They got control instead. And nothing frustrates an emotional person more than someone who refuses to join their chaos. And here's where the real skill comes in. Sometimes you can use their emotions to lead them where you want. If you know someone's pride makes them overconfident, let them believe they've already won. Give them that false sense of security. until they walk straight into a position where you hold the advantage. Imagine you're in a business deal. The other side is proud and loves feeling like the smartest person in the room. They keep bragging about how strong their position is and how easily they can walk away. But instead of challenging that pride directly, you lean into it. You agree with them, make small concessions on things that don't really matter, and let them feel in control. This feeds their ego and lowers their guard. Then, when the moment comes to finalize the agreement, you push for that one term that really matters to you, because by now they're too confident and too invested to back out. They sign thinking they've dominated the deal, while you quietly walk away with exactly what you wanted all along. Emotions make people blind. Stay calm, and you see what they can't. And when they're too angry or too proud to think straight, that's when you move. Carefully, not rashly. Number 7. Prepare for the worst. In our final quote from Sun Tzu for this video, he says, "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win." Sun Tzu believed battles were decided long before the first move was made. Victory, according to him, came from preparation. The generals who planned for every possibility, who expected surprises and had answers ready, were the ones who walked away victorious. Outsmarting someone isn't about just reacting well. It's also about planning so well that you never need to scramble. When you prepare for the worst, nothing catches you off guard. Suppose you're about to have a serious conversation with someone you care about. You know it could get emotional. If you walk in hoping for the best, you're setting yourself up to be thrown off when things go sideways. Instead, you prepare. What will I do if they get angry? If they start crying? If they walk away? Maybe you plan to pause, take a breath, and calmly say, "I understand that you're upset, and I want to hear you." Or if they shut down, you're ready to say, "It's okay. We can take a break and talk later." When you plan for these moments, you stay in control instead of being pulled into chaos. People who don't prepare rely on hope. People who prepare rely on strategy, and strategy beats hope every time. So, before any challenge, ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen here? And if it does, what's my move? When you have those answers, nothing rattles you, because you've already won before the game even begins. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to check out our full Philosophies for Life playlist, and for more videos to help you find success and happiness using beautiful philosophical wisdom, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.